It was a crisp morning on the coast of Malibu, and the sun had just begun casting its golden rays over the sleek silhouette of a stunning, cherry-red Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute parked outside the Crystal Crown Motors showroom. This wasn't just any car, it was a $2 million supercar, the pride and joy of Roman Kessler. A young tech millionaire known for his arrogance, taste and excess, and the hollow click of his designer shoes. As usual, Roman arrived in style, flicking his sunglasses down while cameras clicked around him. It was a press event, one he arranged just to flaunt his new acquisition. But among the cameras and influencers was a girl who didn't belong. Small, quiet, her hands stained with grease, her clothes too plain for this glamorous scene. Her name was Alira. No one knew where she came from, and no one paid attention until she walked up to the car and did the unthinkable. Asterisk. Alira touched the Jesko. Asterisk gasps flew through the crowd. Roman chuckled dryly, his jaw cocked to the side. "You'll leave fingerprints, darling," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "That's Italian carbon fiber. Not exactly playground equipment." The crowd laughed, but Alira didn't flinch. Her hand traced the curve of the hood gently, almost reverently, as if she could feel its pulse. "Your front left torque." "Response is lagging," she said softly, not looking at him. "You're getting vibration feedback at high acceleration. It's probably a microfracture in the hydraulic system." Roman blinked, then laughed louder. "What are you, some kind of car?" "Whisperer now?" he said, his voice mocking. "Duh." But there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Curiosity, or maybe disbelief. Asterisk, she walked away. Everyone thought it was over. But it wasn't. Asterisk, that night, Roman found himself haunted by her words. He'd pushed the car that morning, and did feel something off. Could she have been right? Still skeptical, but intrigued, he called in his top engineer the next morning and had them run diagnostics. The result, a tiny, almost imperceptible issue. A weakness in the hydraulic lines near the front left axle. It would have gone unnoticed until it caused a catastrophic failure. Roman was stunned. How could she have known? Asterisk, driven by both ego and curiosity, he tracked her down to a small garage on the outskirts of the city. Tucked between a flower shop and a rusted pawn store. No signboard. Just the smell of engine oil and a soft hum of an old record playing jazz inside. Alira worked alone, repairing vintage cars by hand. She didn't greet him when he arrived. She simply glanced at him and wiped her hands. "Figured you'd come," she said, as if she'd known all along. Roman, out of his element, stammered awkwardly. "How did you know?" Her answer was quiet. "I listen to machines. They speak to me in ways people don't." Asterisk, Roman didn't understand, but he stayed. Watched. Talked. Slowly, his wall of sarcasm melted away, replaced by admiration. There was something beautiful in the way she moved, precise, respectful, passionate. He learned that she grew up in a foster home, had no degree. No resume, just hands that fixed what others couldn't. She once restored a wrecked 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO with no help. No manuals. Her work wasn't flashy, it was art. Asterisk. One evening, he asked her to take a look at his Koenigsegg again. Not for repair, just to watch her touch it. There was a grace in the way her fingers ran along its form, like a pianist brushing ivory keys. And when she closed her eyes and whispered, "This car was built for someone who doesn't deserve it," Roman didn't laugh. He stood frozen, humbled. Asterisk, little did he know, Alira carried pain, a loss that no man could comprehend. Her brother, the only family she ever had, died in a street race caused by a faulty supercar. Since then, she had vowed never to let machines kill again. She repaired to heal, to protect. Roman began to see not just her skill, but her soul. Asterisk gained when he offered her a job, chief engineer at his automotive tech firm. She declined. "You don't need someone to build cars," she said. "You need someone to teach you why they matter." Asterisk. And with that, he knew chapter 1 of their story was only the beginning. Roman didn't know why he kept driving back to the little garage tucked between a wilting flower shop and a blinking pawn store sign. He told himself it was about the car, about curiosity, about a broken part that only Alira could understand, but the truth was louder than the purr of any engine he ever owned. She had unsettled him, not with force, but with silence. Her presence was quiet, but it pressed against every arrogant thought he'd ever carried, like a weight he hadn't realized he needed to put down. Every evening he came by, expecting to be bored, only to find himself listening, not to her voice, which was minimal, but to her hands, her movements, her rhythm. She had this habit of talking to the machines under her breath, like they were children who needed soothing. Roman watched her fix a gutted old Porsche with nothing more than a socket wrench and instinct. And he realized that she had something he'd never been able to buy, a relationship with the machine that was built on respect, not power. The headlines outside were starting to shift. Reporters noticed his absence from the usual parties and red carpets. Tech millionaire goes underground. Has Roman Kessler found love or madness? The tabloids asked. He didn't care. One night he brought her dinner, not expensive, not flashy, just grilled cheese sandwiches and black coffee from a diner 2 streets over. She accepted it without a word, wiping her hands on her coveralls and sitting beside him on the cold shop floor. He told her things he'd never told anyone. How he'd built his empire by outmaneuvering people, not by loving what he created. How his father had once slapped him for losing a toy car, saying you only have what you protect. How he'd never really driven for joy only to be seen. Alira listened with eyes that didn't pity, didn't judge, just absorbed. That night, he didn't go home. The next morning, Roman awoke to the smell of motor oil and music, some old Sam Cooke record playing softly in the background. Alira was already working, her silhouette framed by the soft light filtering through the dust-covered windows. Without asking, he got up, picked up a rag and started cleaning tools. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. They had entered a space of shared understanding, a mechanic's communion. Days turned to weeks. Roman stopped wearing watches. He didn't care for time anymore. The Jesco sat outside the shop, untouched, gleaming under layers of dust, as if waiting for a rebirth. One afternoon, she walked up to it and finally opened the hood. "You want to know what this car is missing?" she asked. He nodded, expecting a technical lecture. "It has no soul," she said. "It was made to impress. It was never loved." Roman's throat tightened. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to say that night. They took a drive, not in the Jesco, but in her restored 1984 Datsun, 2800's paint faded. Engine purring like a cat, the scent of pine and rust clinging to the vents. They drove through empty mountain roads, windows down, the stars above, vast and quiet. She let him drive, and it felt like flying. No cameras, no fans, just the hum of something real. She pointed out constellations, and he found himself memorizing, the way her voice softened when she said things like Cassiopeia or Lyra. She wasn't just a mechanic, she was a galaxy he'd never learned how to navigate. But peace never lasts long in a world of money and noise. One morning, Roman arrived to find the shop in chaos. Police tape, shattered glass, and her tools, scattered like broken bones. Someone had tried to rob her. Roman's heart dropped as he rushed inside, shouting her name. He found her sitting against the wall, bruised but calm. "I'm okay," she said. But her eyes told another story. She wasn't hurt physically. She was heartbroken. The Jesco, her silent friend, had been vandalized. Its hood was pried open, systems damaged, shell scratched with words like fake and trash. It was a message someone knew Roman had grown close to her, and they didn't like it. Roman exploded. That night, he went live on his company's social media account, not with PR polish, but raw fury. "This woman," he said, holding a photo of her shop, "has more genius in her fingertips than any boardroom I've ever sat in. And someone tried to silence her, but I won't let them." The video went viral. The world who once laughed with him now cried for her. Alira's name trended. Donations flooded in. Offers came from brands, collectors, engineers, all begging for her to join them. But she refused them all. Roman returned to the shop, bringing a single thing, a blank car chassis, and a question. "Will you build with me?" he asked. She raised an eyebrow. Not for money, not for fame, just to make something real. And for the first time since they met, she smiled. It was a soft, breaking smile like the first sun after rain. She took the wrench from the table, handed him another, and said, "Only if you're ready to listen." Asterisk, they built it together. Not a supercar, but a dream. A hybrid of technology and heart, sleek but soulful. It took months. And when they unveiled it, it wasn't at a gala or auto show. It was on a stretch of road by the ocean, surrounded by kids from the local tech school, her old garage crew, and no paparazzi. Alira drove it first. Roman stood by, silent, tears in his eyes as he watched her hands cradle the wheel. It wasn't the speed that moved him, it was the way the machine responded to her touch, fluid, graceful, alive. When she stepped out, the crowd clapped. Roman approached slowly. "You changed me," he whispered, "not by force, but by being you." Alira took his hand gently, pressed it against the hood, and whispered, "Now you know how to feel." Later that night, under a blanket of stars, Roman sat alone by the car. She had gone inside, leaving him with his thoughts. His reflection shimmered on the polished hood. A man no longer blinded by status, but lit by something truer, he remembered. The day he laughed at her touch. Now, her hands had shaped the very thing that healed his soul. And in that silence, the silence she gave him, he cried, not from pain, but from gratitude. From love. So if this story moved you even just a little, if it made you remember that real change starts with listening, with humility, with heart, don't just scroll. Subscribe. Support stories that matter, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more hands like hers, and hearts willing to change.